Hello and welcome to Movies That Move Me. I'm your host Elijah Winfrey. I am a writer and director, and I made this series so I can talk about the movies that made me want to be a filmmaker. I also made this series so that you and I can have a kind of continuous dialogue about movies, because why not, right? Why not? So if you have a movie that you want me to talk about, comment it below. I will do my very best to one, watch the movie, and then two, talk about it, because I find that you can pretty much find inspiration from any movie out there, whether it's showing you what you should do or what you definitely shouldn't do. Okay, so feel free to leave me a comment there, and I promise I will do the homework because I love watching movies. Okay, it's not really an assignment when you love it, right? So let's get into the movie we're talking about today and some of the inspirations that I take from this film. Okay, so this film is from 1995, and let me just double check that. Yeah, it is 95, came out in March of 95. It is PG 13. It is one of my favorites, Tommy Boy. This film obviously features Chris Farley, it features David Spade, it features tons of other great performers as well. But let me give you the details on this film here. And hopefully you didn't hear that noise from my computer. Thanks, computer, for chiming in. Apparently it likes Tommy Boy too. Yeah. But let me give you the details on what this film is about here before we talk about what inspiration I took from it. So, here we go. This is going to be a long plot, but let me give it to you. Tommy Callahan Jr., played by Chris Farley, is a slow-witted, clumsy guy who recently graduated college after attending for 7 years. His father, Big Tom Callahan, owns an auto parts factory in Ohio. When Tommy arrives back home, he finds he has a position at the factory waiting for him. His dad also introduces Tommy to the new brake pad division of the factory and to Tommy's soon-to-be stepmother, Beverly, and her son, Paul. But when Big Tom dies, the factory threatens to go under unless the new brake pads are to be sold. Therefore, Tommy must go on the road to sell them along with the assistance of Richard, played by David Spade, Big Tom's right-hand man. Will Tommy save the company, or will the factory and the town go under? So this is one of those that I feel like has become beloved the more that years go on. Okay. Um, but for me, I've loved it since the very first moment I saw it. It was actually one that my dad had on VHS, and we pretty much wore that thing out because we watched this all the time. I really enjoyed the relationship and the comedy between Chris Farley and David Spade. It really does help when your actors, your performers, know each other outside of your film and have a good back and forth with one another. Because obviously these guys had starred on Saturday Night Live together. If you're familiar with either one of them, you already knew that. But I'm just saying, as a director, if you can get performers who have worked together before, generally speaking, it can help your film move along nicely. And I think it did that in this film. As there's so much ad libbing that happens, there's so much extra stuff that was thrown in there that actually made the final cut. Watch interviews with David Spade. Go back and watch vintage interviews with Chris Farley. You'll hear them both talk about that very thing that I just said. So, but inspirationally for me, I love the way that they operated their comedic timing. It's something I try to emulate whenever I'm writing comedy into my scripts. I love the heart in this movie, though. That's the thing, like I remember we were talking about Kangaroo Jack, we were talking about Rat Race. Those movies didn't necessarily have heart to them. They were just funny, okay? And there's nothing wrong with that. But this movie, man, I mean, there's some real stakes involved. Like, all these people are going to lose their job if Chris Farley doesn't figure out how to sell these brake pads, okay? This town's going to go under if he doesn't figure out how to do this, because this is the biggest employer most likely in that town. And so for me, it was kind of an insight into how to write a story about a small town, essentially, how to write a story about somebody who is an underdog, and how to make people care about something that maybe they never really have thought about before. I'll be honest with you, I'm not a car guy. So if you tried to get me to watch this movie by saying, we're going to watch a movie about brake pads, you know what I'd say to you? No, I'm not. You could do that, but I'm not going to. Uh, so for me, the hook here is that heart and soul of this movie. And I think Chris Farley pulled that off. Yes, he was a comedic genius, okay? No doubt about that, right? But, and this is where maybe some people will disagree with me, a lot of times it felt like people were just making fun of him because of his weight. And I'm a bigger guy, okay? So I'm sensitive to that. He was a damn good actor, though. And this is one of those movies that I feel like he really showed those acting chops. And if you put anybody else in this movie, okay, in that role, I don't think this movie is talked about as much as it is years later. So to me, that is where Chris Farley like showed us um, really something amazing, something special, and it's a damn shame that we lost him so young. But for me, inspirationally, I take out of this, like I said, those things about how to make a story about a small town, how to make something that seems so simple. Brake pads mean so much to people. Like you're really rooting for them. You're like, come on now, like sell these brake pads. And you probably never said that in your life before, unless you work in automotive. Which, if you do, hopefully you didn't take what I said as disrespect. Listen, great automotive people out there, and y'all do stuff that I would never know how to do. Okay, so much respect to those automotive people. I'm just saying, if you try to hook me in with a movie by saying we're gonna watch a brake pad movie, not really gonna do it for me. Okay, but this movie made you care about brake pads, made you care about these two guys, and David Spade. He is so sarcastic in this movie, but I freaking love it. So again, you've probably seen Tommy Boy. I'd like to think that you have, but that's kind of some of the inspiration that I take from that film. If you haven't seen this film, you owe it to yourself to watch it. Once you watch it, come back and let me know your thoughts. If you've already seen it, watch it again. Why not, right? This is one of those movies that, like, if I can't figure out what to watch on any given night, I'm putting on Tommy Boy, because there's never a bad time to watch Tommy Boy. And to me, that is the biggest compliment I can give any film. Uh, is the fact that it's never a bad time to watch it. So check it out if you haven't seen it. If you have seen it, watch it again. Let me know your thoughts on it. This is a movie that moved me. Tommy Boy. It's a comedy, but man, does it have so much heart to it. Have yourself a great one.